The capabilities available through Watson's cloud-based services sound amazing, but I'm not sure where to start.
The best way to get started is by first visiting the Watson Developer Cloud website. The first thing that I would like to show you on the Watson Developer Cloud is the listing of our APIs. Notice the discovery service and the conversation service that we talked about earlier. And if you take a closer look, you would note that it really falls under two different paradigms of services, that of understanding language and that of understanding vision. I encourage you to explore the docs section and the developer tools. The one that I am keen on showing you today is the starter kits. And I would love to run a demo for you on one of my favorite starter kits. Notice that these starter kits, they use various and different services. You can launch the app from here, view the code on GitHub, download it, customize it for your needs. News Intelligence uses the Discovery service. Social Customer Care uses three services: Personality Insights, Natural Language Classifier, and the Tone Analyzer. And for those of you who are always interested in robotics, we have a little application that uses visual recognition and speech to text. If you note, there we go, match your celebrity. This uses the Personality Insights and uses the big 5 personality traits. And it does so by analyzing Twitter feeds. So I'm going to open the app and I'm going to enter my Twitter handle and see which one of these celebrities I'm most similar. Danny Masterson. Let's scroll down here. Most similar to me, Jimmy Kimmel, George Lopez. Least similar to me is Britney Spears. All right, these are my personalities and how they match with a certain celebrity in here. Notice it is based on the big 5. My needs are depicted in here and values. You can already see how a tool like this would be such a helpful instrument for human resources. At this point, I would like to bring your attention to Bluemix. Obtain an account, sign in. I have done so already, and I already have logged in. Bluemix is IBM's PaaS, Platform as a Service. If this was Amazon, this would have been called AWS. If this was Microsoft, it would have been called Azure. In the case of IBM, the name of our PaaS is Bluemix. Notice Bluemix is not a Watson thing, it's an IBM thing. There are lots of services, data analytics, storage, security, DevOps, where developers, it's a haven for developers, can obtain services and quickly deploy their enriched apps to the cloud. Our interest and concern this time is on the Watson services. And these are some of the services that we currently have. Let's take a close look at the conversation service. It is good practice to name the service something unique. In this case, I will call this service Udacity 1, and let's create this service. This takes merely a few seconds. I want to bring your attention to the 3 tabs that we see in here. Manage. This is where you actually launch the UI to work with the service. Service credentials. This is where you would find the credentials for your service, username and password. You would find yourself often copy-pasting these credentials in your app.js file and various other servlets that you're running to deploy. And of course, connections, if your service is connected to an application. It isn't in this case, but why don't I take you to my dashboard where I have such services actually working in conjunction with deployed applications. To do this, I'm going to refer to my dashboard. Notice I have 18 services that I am using, and these services are being consumed by a total of 7 apps. I want to bring your attention to the My Car conversation. This particular application uses a conversation service we saw above. Fantastic. This is an overview. That is the URL to my service. without further ado, let's actually demo this particular. So what does it do? Let me begin by saying turn on AC. If you note over here on the right hand, the system understood my intention. My intention was to turn on something. Then it further explored and it found out that there's an entity. What is it that I want to turn on? Happens to be an appliance. AC is an appliance that I have classified under that. Let's try another example. Turn on radio. Now this is a dialogue. We'll take a look at the dialogue section later. It says, sure, what genre would you prefer? Well, for me it happens to be rock. Let's try this question. How is the weather today? Perfect. It understood that my intention was weather. The entity happened to be day. The value of that was today. It could be this afternoon or tonight. We can specify those, and that is the text that I put in there. And it was able to pull up the actual weather using the APIs from the weather company. Why don't we take a closer look and see how this is constructed in the conversation service. I'm going to take you to, this is my application, but where we click that, the connections link actually points to the very service that is making this a possibility. Very well. You've seen this page before. This time we're going to click Launch Tool. And here is one of my sample car dashboard. And there are the entities that we saw earlier on the right-hand side. Capabilities, goodbyes, greetings. I want to show you something quite interesting. Let's say in the section of capabilities, I'm going to add a new capability. This is an intention. Where can I take you? Notice, Watson is training. As we speak, on the fly, patterns are being built. Optimization is taking place. This, ladies and gentlemen, is convolutional neural networks. The next thing that you notice in this tab is the notion of entities. Well, now that we have our intentions classified, what is it that we want to turn on? Amenities. What is it that we want to play? The genre of the music. I can clearly add more to this section. And dialogue is where we actually construct our dialogue. Let's run that same example over here. Watson has finished training. Turn on AC. Very good. So it understands that we want to turn on something. Turn on wipers. Very good. Now let me try how is the weather today. Okay, notice it jumped to my weather node, and let's take a closer look at the node in here. A dialog node is a Boolean construct. If yes, do this. If no, do that. So the triggers in here happen to be our intents. We designate that with the pound sign. And the entities that correspond to that, we designate that with the @ sign. There's no particular reason from that, just visually for you to be able to discern between the two. And the responses is, well, if a system date is available, then using this sort of a format, and we get this from the weather API formats, tell me what's the weather in the location that I happen to be in, which is Mountain View, and what that is. So these are really two parameters that I set in here. If not, if I haven't specified a certain date, then it would ask me, well, for which day would you like to know the weather? Notice how it didn't give the answer to exactly how the weather is in Mountain View as it did with the app. That's because I'm using the service only, and this service now is not aware of the application that has my custom code that talks about the weather. Folks, another worthy mention is, should you refer to the Getting Started tab, this shows you how you can quickly get started connecting your service to your application. There are some prerequisites. Clearly, you'll need a Bluemix account. You probably have one by now. You'll need the Cloud Foundry command line interface, so you'll be able to communicate with the service using CLI. Download Git. You'll be getting a lot of your code from GitHub. And of course, Node. Node.js is the engine that is running this particular application. A lot of our services are actually coded in Node. The steps are really straightforward. You would clone the application, merely copy-pasting this in your command prompt or terminal, and you'll get to run the app locally. One or two steps prior to that. npm install. Every program, every language has its own dependencies. Node happens to have Node Package Manager as a dependency. We will install that. And then we will start a servlet. Then you can just refer to localhost 3000 and you'll be able to see your app on your local system running on your local system. And that's how easy it is to create an app using IBM Watson services.